All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, man, music to my ears on ESPN as Stephen A. Smith presses Terence Crawford over a fight with Jaron Boots Ennis. And I'm going to stay on this subject until the fight happens, or until a fight happens with Jaron Ennis. Because look, man, we can't do this. We can't do what we did with Errol Spence early in Errol Spence Jr.'s career. We can't do that to Jaron Ennis. We got to keep it pushing, man. We got to keep it pushing. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're gonna get straight to the point on this one about Jaron Ennis and Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is pressed by Stephen A. Smith of ESPN about fighting Jaron Boots Ennis, who is the IBF interim champion, or better way to say it is that he is the mandatory challenger for the fight with Terence Crawford, who's the IBF champion, provided Terence Crawford gets past Errol Spence Jr. in the rematch that they have, and that he actually stays at the weight class. So you have Jaron Ennis, who is one of the best young fighters that there is in boxing. Excuse me, easily. Let me take a little sip of this tea. Forgive me. A little bit of a dry throat. Easily. And then you have Terence Crawford, who's the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, in my book. Hall of Fame level fighter. Terrific career, without a doubt. But he's got to fight somebody. Has to fight somebody. And considering all the things that he has said out of his mouth, not mine, his mouth, there's really no other real good choice other than Jaron Ennis. And I got to take my hats off to Stephen A. Smith for drawing attention to that on a very, very major network, and seeing as he is probably the biggest name sportscasters. What do you call him? A sports journalist that there is? Perfect. Now, look, before I get into the details of it, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much. And thank you to everybody that supports in the super thanks of videos like this. It really, really does make a huge difference to the channel. But it's just this simple. We cannot allow, and I'm going to speak in the universal that people in the comment sections always like to throw at me when they say, nobody wants to see this fight. Nobody thinks that Jaron Ennis can beat Terence Crawford. Nobody wants to see Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. It's, all of that stuff. So since other people engage in that, let me engage in this for a while. The boxing world that I speak for, all of it, me speaking for it, cannot do the same thing that we did with Errol Spence. When Errol Spence Jr. was fighting before he won his title, before he fought Kell Brook, and then after he fought Kell Brook, and then after he fought Lamont Peterson, where the top fighters in the division kept holding him off and holding him off and holding him off and holding him off, and saying, you have Keith Thurman saying, yeah, well, it's not quite right, young man, you're not quite right there yet. Down the road, yeah, we'll make it down the road. All of those type of things were being said by all of the top guys at 147. And I personally believe that that had major effects on the career of Errol Spence, on his inactivity, on his losing focus as far as what he's doing in the ring, because, these guys wouldn't fight him. So he's having long periods of times off. So he gains a lot of weight. All kind of stuff distracts you when you're not able to consistently get fights. And One of the reasons that Errol Spence didn't get those fights was because people were acting like Terence Crawford is acting as it relates to Jaron Ennis now. No, well, at this point in time in my career, I'm not really looking to fight for, have those type of fights. At this point in time in my career, I'm looking for only the big fights. I'm looking for the big paydays, all of that, right? So you have a group of fans that say, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. As long as there's big fights. If there's not big fights, though, you're just bumping your gums. Let me be very clear. If there are big fights, say Keith Thurman says, I'm just looking for the big fights. I'm talking about back in early in Errol's career. If there was really bigger fights for him, okay. But there's not. So you're full of it. You know what I mean? So if you say, take, for example, somebody like Shakur Stevenson, and there he says, I'm looking for a Gervonta Davis fight. And I'm going to get take the Gervonta Davis fight instead of, say, a Frank Martin fight for a Frank Martin fight, even though Frank Martin is mandatory. I don't have a problem with that because it is, fighters do fight for money. Right. And it is most definitely, making these kind of calls and these type of opinions. It's complicated. You got to take a lot of factors into consideration. So does that apply to Terence Crawford right now? It does not. It does not, because there's no big fights for him. Canelo Alvarez is the big fight that he says he wants. And Canelo Alvarez is 2 weight classes up. 3 weight classes up, really. He's the 3rd weight class up. And he said there's nothing in it for me. So, and I'm not doing it next. So there's no, that Canelo Alvarez fight is what you call a pipe dream. It's not real. So then what's the other big fight? Jermell Charlo just came off of a loss to Canelo Alvarez in a pay-per-view that did less than Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant, which would put Jermell Charlo a little bit less of a draw than Caleb Plant. By my very, very back of the napkin calculation. So Jermell's not a big fight. Jermell's not somebody who's going to make him $30 million, $20 million. No, you may get 15, you may get 10, 15 million against Canelo. Maybe you will. But no, other than you're not going to get that payday. You're not going to get the same Errol Spence payday against. You're probably not going to get the same Errol Spence payday against Canelo. Probably not, because of the amount of money that Canelo Alvarez is going to take out of that pot, because he's the A side, and they're not going to do the same type of negotiations that Errol Spence did because Canelo doesn't need it for the same reasons that Errol needed it or thought he needed it. But whatever. So what are you left with? All of the people that Terence Crawford said he wouldn't fight. You're not going to fight Danny Garcia, which would be a good fight. You're not going to fight Keith Thurman, which would be a good fight. You're not going to fight Jaron Ennis, which is the fight that if there's one person that is most often being talked about, other than the Errol Spence rematch for Terence Crawford to fight, it's Jaron Ennis. It's the young guy coming up, the one that has over 30. He's like 31 fights, 31 wins, 28 knockouts. He looks like he's got every skill in the book. He's out of the state. He's out of the state of Pennsylvania, specifically the city of Philadelphia, and he looks completely and utterly to be the goods. So, really and truly, what's the issue? I agree 100% with Stephen A. Smith, and it is fight the guy. Now, if any point in time I said Stephen Espinoza, forgive me. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.